Welcome to the New Growth Podcast with Nikki Walton. Join her as she explores divine love as a key to spiritual growth, empowered service, and inner and outer success. If you'd like to support Nikki's podcast, please visit BeHereNowNetwork.com/Nikki.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to New Growth. I am your host, Nikki Walton, and today I am with Krishna Das, referred to as KD. KD is a Grammy Award-nominating kirtan artist. He's an author. He's a rock star. He's worked with artists like Steely Dan and Sting, and his music has become the soundtrack of my whole entire life, especially over this year, 2020. This has been the year of KD for me. So please join me in welcoming Krishna Das to New Growth. Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for letting everybody know that I'm a Grammy loser.
I'm an NAACP Image Award nominated author, so I'm a loser too. But it's all good, right? It's all
good. Company. Good
company. It's good. So I want this time... I want to spend it kind of introducing people that aren't aware of what chanting the names of God, like what that is and how it can be used practically in awakening. And then for folks like me, I've been doing this kind of off and on since about 2014, but have been doing it steadily. Like I'm going to tell you about it a little bit more later, just how much of my life it's become in this past year. So for folks like me, like to help us troubleshoot and be more effective, do you think that sounds good? Like a good blueprint for the hour?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Awesome. Sure. Awesome. So I'd like to start by just asking you what your present moment experience is. Like, what's your experience of this moment?
You mean this moment or this moment in time?
This moment beyond time. Like, how does KD experience moment to moment or seeming moment to moment life?
Well, it's a good question. I've been doing this stuff for a long time, or at least pretending to do it for a long time. I was, back in high school, I was reading books about Buddhism. So we're talking about over 60 years or 55 years of being interested in what's usually called the spiritual path, whatever that means. Trying to find a way to live in this world in a good way, in a way that wasn't full of a lot of emotional pain and a lot of unresolved desires and frustrations, and in a way that wasn't like I had to hide from people or couldn't connect with people. So this moment is like every moment that has been here. I'm always angling back towards that place inside, but not in a. I've learned that you can't push things away. You can't. Finding one's true self and finding the love that lives within us will never work if we by trying to protect ourselves and push things away. Letting go of things is different than pushing things away. And so every moment that we're here, we have the possibility to remember what life could be about if it could be the way we would like it to be.
Beautiful.
So you go through your day floating in and out of being here and being gone. And most of the time we're gone. Most of the time, and some people, and unfortunately it's most people, get born, they graduate from high school, they drink a little beer, and then they die.
Yep.
And that's it. They're gone. Then they were never here for a minute.
Yeah.
And when you realize that's kind of the default way that most of us go through our lives,
Yeah.
it's very intense. You really, and the funny thing about it is you don't realize that so much until you hit a wall and you start to experience that kind of longing to be free of the things that keep us screwed up.
Yes.
So, I just go through the day in the best way I can.
Yeah.
And the moments of practice, which we can talk about, but those moments reverberate out through the day, and they keep pulling me back into the present moment, or the heart, you could say. Just to be here. I mean,
right.
When we talk about the present moment, it's kind of like a spacey kind of thing. But when you talk about the heart and, really feeling present and feeling available to life and to people and to just be with people without having to prove anything or project anything or pretend, but we do a lot of that, pretending and projecting, because we need things and we think that's the way we're going to get it.
Exactly.
So that was a long answer for a short
I
question.
loved it though. It was great.
And I don't even think I answered the question, but I avoided it very nicely, I think.
You did answer. You said one thing that stood out to me when you said angling back toward that love or toward that center.
Yeah.
How does that look for you? Because when I hear that, for me, when I'm angling back, it's like a listening. So it's like I'm listening for silence, which is why chanting is great for me because it gives me great contrast. So I'm chanting, then I can hear the silence that's very obvious. And when I listen for the silence, there's love. And then that is the present moment for me. Like that love is it because it's always there.
Definitely. Absolutely. Yeah. But we do get distracted, we do lose that awareness. And
all day.
the funny thing is, though, you can't grab onto that awareness. You can't hold on to it. You can only cultivate it, and then it arises by itself. You can't, it's like you can't see yourself looking out of your eyes, you can't grab that. But through the desire to become free and the results of the practices that you do, you get pulled back from outer space, dreamland, much more often.
Right.
And until we add some kind of practice to our lives, we don't realize we're not here.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk to most people, they don't, I'm here. What do you mean? No, I don't think so. You're saying that, but you're not really, you're in that flow of reactive actions that just keep bouncing off of everything. It's very hard to talk about here-ness, but it's not hard to talk about quieting down a little bit. And, I remember I read something once about people who are in these kind of ultra conservative, born again type situations. They believe the devil is inside. And so they won't look at themselves because they're afraid that that's going inside, calming down and dealing with your negative emotions and stuff. They're afraid the devil's in there. So they stay facing outwards.
Wow.
And they don't find any peace of mind. They only find that heavy emotional hit that you get in certain situations, like in a choir when everybody's singing, or a church or a group. You get the great emotional hit, but you can't hold on to that because
then you're back outside those doors and you're right back in it.
Yeah, it's like trying to build a house on quicksand. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think that that's because that kind of self-loathing and self-hatred and self-judging that we do is so deep within us that it's hard to, you can't really face it directly right on. You can just start trying to quiet your mind a little bit, just like washing the breath or repeating some mantra or just allowing, but even then it's so difficult for people.
Yeah.
Really
truly,
difficult.
Truly. Even after years for me, on some mornings I'll sit to do my mantra and I'm like just back and forth, back and forth. I loved how one day you said it's like if you don't have a practice, it's like you're free falling all day. You have nothing to come back to. And it's bizarre how I can be literally sitting, trying, trying to stay. And my mind is like, okay, let's think about this. And we got to plan for this. And this is on the to-do list. And then I'm back to the mantra. And then, nope, I need to do this later and I can't forget to do this. And it's to see it happen. And you wouldn't see it happen if you weren't sitting quietly, like you said, getting quiet inside.
Yeah. But it's very painful to see that stuff too. I mean, it's not easy. And people think they're doing something wrong, but actually you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Otherwise you'd never notice at all.
Yeah. And for me, it was like 2013 before I saw the sky. Like I was telling my mom that the other day, and I know that sounds bizarre and crazy, but I was lost in thought until like late 20s. I read The Power of Now finally, and then Be Here Now, Ram Dass. And all of a sudden I was able to step out just for a bit, just to witness the thoughts, to be in that witnessing position for the first time. And it blew my mind. And I was living in Happy Valley in Pennsylvania, and I saw the mountains and the sky, and it was so vivid and beautiful. And I'm like, where have I been? For decades.
Beautiful.
For decades.
That's great.
For decades.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. St. John of the Cross wrote, in the beginning, the Father uttered one word. That word is his Son. And he utters him forever in everlasting silence. And it's in silence that the heart must hear.
Wow.
Oh. Now that silence is not just the absence of noise. It's not even just the absence of thought. It's the presence, the being in which we live, the space, the vast presence in which we all live. Everything exists inside of that vast space. There's no outside of that. Everything is within that. Just like the clouds and the birds and the planes and everything and the earth are surrounded in space, by space. Everything is held in that space. And that is the silence of being, which is not the absence of noise.
Right.
It's not even the absence of thought.
Right.
It's the freedom from being stuck to any of those experiences, being identified with or glued to the stuff as it goes through.
So you can be aware of this space, that presence, while thoughts are racing, while the noise of the world, your inner world is racing. That stillness, you can become aware of it.
Yes. But if you wanted to be more accurate, you wouldn't say you can become aware of it. You would say, because that implies there's a you to become aware of that space. But actually, we are that space.
So it's like it's announcing itself.
Our true nature is, so what we do is we just, it's like when a kid is playing, they're just playing. They're not like thinking like, wow, I'm really playing. Isn't this great?
Right,
I'm really here now. Isn't that wonderful? I'm here. They don't know. That's a meta story. And when you're really present, there's nobody saying, wow, I'm really present. This is great. I finally made it. It's not like that. So that's why when you sit, for instance, and repeat the mantra or listen to the mantra in your mind, you don't have to be thinking about whether it's working or not. You don't have to be thinking about anything. You just need to be being with the mantra. But then we always have that tendency, like, oh, okay, good. Now I'm with the mantra. Oh, this is good. Yeah. Oh, and then you're gone again.
Yep.
So that's why you don't try to manipulate. You don't try to judge or evaluate. You simply do the practice. Whether you think it worked or not, that's not our problem. You know, you planted the seeds by trying to pay some attention to it, then go and be stupid the rest of the day. It doesn't make any difference. You know?
So when you say it's not you, right? Becoming aware of it. It's not you doing the practice. It's not you doing the meditation. I believe I read in your book where you're basically saying it's doing you. So this practice is arising where you are. I know it's really difficult to say in words, but it's like if it's not you that's sitting to do the mantra because you're not there, then you're witnessing.
Yeah.
This.
You know, it's like you're in a car. You're a student driver, and you're in a car that has 2 steering wheels and 2 sets of controls. And you're driving along. You know, you think, "Wow, I'm really driving. This is great." And then you miss. You know, some animal runs across the road, and you forget to hit the brakes. The teacher's going to hit the brakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the teacher is your true self. You know, we're identified with being the doer. Where, you know, I'm doing this, I'm meditating, I'm cooking food, I'm this, I'm a mother, I'm a father. That's normal. That's normal stuff. But there's a deeper reality, which is that life is just unfolding, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we're like riding the wave, you know, right on the edge of the wave. We're surfing that wave, but we're not making the wave move. We're just riding the surf. We're riding that energy.
Yeah.
That unfolding. But that's not what's really important. What's important is that we want to be good human beings. You know, we want to be treated well by other people. And we do want to, if we weren't threatened and resentful and defensive, if we didn't have all that stuff, we would naturally treat other people well.
Right.
So we want to get to the place where we can treat other people the way we want to be treated. And that takes a lot of work because we have all these programs running. So when we do chanting, for instance, we sing or repeat these names, these mantras. And when we notice that we've been lost in thought or memory or imagination about this or that, or remembering, oh, tomorrow when I go to the store, I have to remember to get that, you know. And then you go, oh, wait, I'm sitting with 1,000 people singing, and I've been singing, but I haven't been paying any attention. So then you come back again. That's all you do. You just keep coming back again and again and again. And little by little, we get more familiar with how it feels to be here and what that really means. Because right now, if somebody says, well, you're not really here. You say, what do you mean I'm not really here? I'm here. Well, you are and you aren't. You know, it's like, so every time we come back, they've proven that there's a neural pathway in the brain that actually gets deeper and changes. And then it gets easier to come back. And the brain starts to change in shape and the different pathways open up. And we get the ability to not be so stuck in our thoughts and not be so tortured by our obsessive thinking. And that's when we can actually, it relaxes us in a way. And we can be more present with other people because we're not so identified with our own storylines all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I've noticed that the identification with me and the stuff that I do during the day is lessened when I have brought the chant out into the day. So I'll get up, I'll do my mantra for a couple of hours in the morning, and then I'll start the day but it's easier to stay kind of in a witnessing position and like a little bit back, seemingly back, even though it's not that, but it feels like I'm more behind, watching the walking and the eating and the preparing and the this and the that and the anger that comes up or the frustration that comes up. It's easier. There's some space there, which
It's
before the
space. Yeah.
chanting, before mantra, because I was just practicing the presence of God, like Brother Lawrence. I had been doing that for several years.
Right. That's great.
I needed something meatier, because I was recognizing that I wasn't aware of the love as much as I thought I was. So when I recognized that, I'm like, I need something that's a bit more tangible. And I would come back to mantra all the time. But up until this year, it felt like a chore. It did not feel fun. And I even listened to one of your songs in 2018 and I wasn't ready for it yet. It was like some version of Sitaram. And I'm like, oh, it's beautiful. But, I'd rather listen to Drake or Beyonce or Coldplay or something.
Me
and
too.
then, but no. So this year I started with my regular playlists at the top of the year. And like by April, May, maybe half the playlist was some of your songs. And then like now, the only playlist I have is your music and a couple of other kirtan singers. Like that's it. That's all I listen to. Every now and then I'll play like a Coldplay song, but it's very rare. And it's not a chore anymore. It's not just to sit and do the mantra, but like all day, like
that's wonderful.
Returning to it throughout the day. It's a love now. I'm excited to wake up and do my practice.
Wonderful. Well, this is that's wonderful, and to put it simply, what you feel and what other people feel and what I feel when I chant or when chanting is happening is my guru, is Neem Karoli Baba. There's a little old man with a blanket up in the mountains of India who left the body in 73. He's transmitting that beautiful presence that all these great beings have become, that incredible love, and we're just trying to remember that because that's our own truth inside. And the so-called the mantras that we sing, which in India they call the names of God or the divine name, that's really essentially the name of our own true nature. It's not something outside of us.
Right.
That's where people get stuck. They even thinking that a guru is outside. No, guru, God, and true self are one thing. They're not different. So
that's Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And all the great saints say that. Maharajji said, Guru is not outside. And Shirdi Sai Baba said, Guru is not outside. But it looks like that to us because we're attached to our bodies. We identify with the sense input that we get and the messages we get from the senses. And so we think we're seeing something outside of ourselves. But really, we're all seeing our own storyline projected on the outside. And as we calm down and as we let go and release untie those knots in our hearts, what we see changes. The way we go through our day changes. Things don't look so scary. People don't look so aggressive. Everything changes, It's really, it's amazing how things do. And we spend less and less time in negative states of mind, which is something you might not notice for a long time, because when you're not lost in your stories, you're just here, you're just at ease, and you're not counting, you're not evaluating at that moment. It's only when the evaluator starts again that you start to notice that way. So most of the real changes come under the radar with these practices. We can, it's like when you're like in LA, if you're in LA and you come in from like Beverly Hills and you're driving towards the ocean. What's the name of that street? There's a street.
I'm the wrong one. No sense of direction.
Yeah, no,
I've been there many, many times, but I'm always in the back seat of an Uber.
Yeah, right. If you're like driving through Pacific Palisades, there's one cross street that says something like ocean mist or something like that. Something, and the minute you cross that street, then you can smell the ocean. You can smell it, and then and this is what happens. As we do these practices, we're moving towards that place inside of us, and the way we see the world changes. The world changes around us. So,
how does that look for you now versus, like you said, 50 years ago? Like when you look out, and I know that's kind of
looks
like
like a
back to the same
computer
question.
screen now. It looks like a computer screen now. Before it looked like real people. Now I don't know. I think it's all playback.
It's all Zoom now.
just a video now.
Yeah. Do you keep your mantra going like during the day, or is that not?
It comes and goes. I attend to it at times, and other times I'm just lost in my daily stuff, and then it'll show up again. And
it's like, hello, remember?
Floats in and out. Yeah. Yeah, and what a blessing for me to be able to chant so much with people. I didn't sing for a long time. After Maharajji left the body, for 20 years, I didn't basically chant with people. But then I had this epiphany where I understood very clearly that if I did not sing with people, I would never clean out the dark shadows in my own heart. And it was understood that those shadows were the only thing that was causing me suffering. Mm-hmm. So I had to get with the program, or I was up to here in the water, And in order to stay here, I have to chant. If I don't chant, it's like,
yes.
And you're breathing ocean spray there,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you started chanting. I said, then you started chanting after the 20 years.
I started singing with people, and there was no program. I had no agenda. I wasn't. I was just trying to save my miserable ass. That's what I was doing. But he had a program. He had designed a drama for me to play a part, and it took a while for it to get going. When I first started singing, it was like 8 or 9 people in the room, and so, and it was like that for a while.
Wow.
And then David and Sharon, who ran Jiva Mukti in New York, Jiva Mukti Yoga, they invited me. I introduced myself to them, and they invited me to come sing for like 20 minutes on Mondays when they did their little satsangs with their teachers. And so for a few months, I sang 20 minutes. But then I showed up one day and they were gone. They had left for India. So I sang for like 2 hours, right? And they were gone for a long time. They were gone for months.
Wow.
And little by little, people started coming, lining up at the door, and there were like 50, 100 people by the time they came back. So they came back one day and I came in, there they were. Oh, hi, So I started chanting like usual, and I just kept chanting. And then all of a sudden I realized, oh shit, they were here. And I've been singing for like an hour. So I kind of just looked over at them like this,
cool?
Yeah. And they went they looked at each other and just went like that. And so from that point on, Mondays was mine, it was awesome. So great. But there was it just happened, Yeah. I didn't make it happen. I didn't even think about it. I was just singing. Yeah. It's amazing. Really
that's
wonderful.
How it works. I said, that's how it works. It sounds like you were coming into alignment and that just blossomed.
I'm still coming into alignment. And there's blossoms everywhere. I don't know where they are.
Yeah. I love your reiteration in Chants of a Lifetime in your book repeatedly, that it's like you're singing from that love to that love. And I would read that and I'd think about that, and I'd come to some form of realization like that many times in the past, but all that kind of stuff is very fleeting. And it's much easier to become aware or to be in that place where it's like, it's not that you're chanting Krishna's name or Ram's name. It's
Mhm.
You're singing from Krishna or from Maharajji to Maharajji as Maharajji and looking out at Krishna, at Maharajji, at love. So it's like from, to, and then looking at, all is
Sure.
this one thing. All is
Yeah.
this one.
Very true. Very true. But, you do have to, but you keep chanting.
Keep chanting.
See, that's the thing. You keep chanting and you keep letting go until there's only chanting going on and there's nobody doing it. It's just happening. And any thinking about it or quick little understandings, those are good. They come, but you keep letting go.
Back to the chanting. Yeah.
Always, because eventually there'll be nothing to let go of anymore, and you'll be at ease, resting in that flow of love. But until that time, one has to keep reminding oneself to let go and not get caught in understanding it too much.
Right.
Because you can. That's kind of a sattvic obstruction, where you think you understand, and that means that you still think you're there. You still think you think you are.
Yeah.
So you just keep letting go, and that gives you a strength to get through the day in a different way, because you have confidence. There's a confidence that kind of develops that nothing will be too much. You can deal with whatever arises. It doesn't have to be. No program of fear or protection has to happen, because you feel so deeply connected to everyone and confident in that feeling that then your heart really becomes available to whoever. But it's a path that comes up and down, in and out. There are good days, there are bad days, there are hard days, there are days when things are easier. You just keep going, and you do the best you can, and you try to be wholehearted and sincere with yourself and with others, best you can. And to get that kind of strength to let go of stuff, that comes from practice.
Right.
Whatever that means to you or to anyone. Many people, have different kinds of practices, and they're all good. But the best practice is the one that you do.
Exactly.
So
when you say letting go, I'm going to give an example and see if this is what you're talking about. So let's say I get an email that makes me upset. In that moment, noticing the chanting coming, to begin with the mantra, is that letting go.
Sure. That's the beginning of letting go. That's the beginning of remembering to let go.
Okay.
But there might be still lingering around it. There might be some, like, who the fuck is that person? Talking to me like that,
Yeah.
You son of a bitch. Okay, you want to be like that? Fine, Sri.
Yes.
No. So that's why you want to always just remember, let go, and not push things away, because if you push your reaction away, you're actually sticking to it. So you do. Then the mantra shows up. Okay, and you start to calm down, and you recognize there's still, I remember once a CD came out, and there was a review on Amazon, and I hope this is okay to be a little X-rated. So I looked at it, and the reviewer said, "Who is this guy? He sounds like a frog being fucked underwater."
Good Lord.
Right? So I read that, and I just said, "Wow, this is so great." So I wrote to myself, "Well, what kind of frog was that?" And my friend David, who plays with me, he wrote to me and says, "How do you know what a frog sounds like being fucked underwater?"
It's an excellent question.
Yeah. So see, this is, people. Now that I could have had a different reaction, right? I could have gone like, "Oh, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just, I just, mostly these days, I don't buy into other people's versions of themselves or
Yeah.
me. That's the other thing. That when somebody says something to you that's hurtful or harmful or nasty, we tend to take it personally. But really, if you look, you see, oh, it's only coming out of that person's pain.
Right.
And that person's pain is a result of the things that happen to that person in their lives. And they don't have any way to deal with it. So they're just exploding in all directions. And you just happen to be standing there. It looks like you're the target, but you're not really the target because they don't know who you are.
Exactly.
So you can, and all that can happen just like in a blink of an eye, so that you just look at that person and go, well, thank you. Yeah, same to you. And you walk away, It's like, but you don't carry it with you because it didn't mean anything to you. It doesn't grab you.
You don't take it personal,
Because when we do these practices and we really begin to understand ourselves and why we hurt other people, and we see how hard it is for us not to be defensive, not to lash out, not to create suffering, how much harder is it for somebody who has no understanding of the path at all? No understanding that there's any way to go through the day without fighting and being beaten up, inner wise, not, so
of course.
then what compassion just arises naturally. And it's not like idiot compassion, it's not like, oh, let me help this poor person. It's more like you just don't get caught in it because you see it, and you see how hard it is for you. It's got to be 100 times harder for this person.
Oh yeah.
And you just allow it to pass through you.
Before COVID happened, I traveled a ton, and I'd always find myself annoyed at airports because of just how ridiculous people get with each other at airports. So I would always have the mantra going, not good humanhood, not bad humanhood, Christhood. And somehow that would trigger me into just feeling that love and recognizing everyone kind of walking through and being that, like forms of that. And it would make it easier for me to be compassionate and to be patient.
For sure. Absolutely. Anything that helps is a good thing. Yeah, for sure.
Let things roll off.
Yeah. I mean, in the old days, if you ever go to a supermarket, and just look around while you're going through the aisles, there's nobody home.
That's so
everybody's
true.
just wheeling that cart around, like
Sleep.
grabbing stuff and, and like rushing through the store. And you look around, it's like, is there anybody here? There's nobody here, Every once in a while, like the cashier will give you a look and you go, that person's here. That's
Exactly.
Every once in a while, but mostly people just spend their whole lives in dreamland and never get here for a moment. Sleepwalking.
Racing
really.
around too. I was with my mom once at a grocery store and she was rushing. And I knew we didn't have anywhere to go. Neither of us had anywhere to be. And I'm like, why are we moving so fast? And where are we going? She's like, I'm like, right. It's just a habit to move and do that way, Like we can slow down and take our time, nowhere to be right now. So
Yeah. Being with my guru was physically in those days was so many people came to him, it was extraordinary just watching him be with everybody and how he treated people. And of course he knew everything, There's a really good book. I don't know if have you heard of Divine Reality?
Yeah, you had it on your website, right?
Yeah, it's a free download on my
downloaded
website.
it. Yep.
Yeah.
I've read
The
it.
stories are unbelievable.
Beautiful.
Just so there's so many stories in there that are so incredible. But one day this old sadhu, this old yogi came to the temple on his way back down from the mountains. And Maharajji was so sweet to him, and he kept giving him more food and more sweets and more sweets and more sweets. And the yogi was just like, no one has ever fed me like this. This is so wonderful. Thank you. And he was all, just blissed out and happy. And he got in the car to be driven down to the train. And They got about half an hour away from the temple, and he had a heart attack and died.
Wow. Wow.
And Maharajji said, I sent him away with love. I sent him off with love.
Mm.
You know, he, in that moment, you know, Maharajji was like that. There was, not that he was always, if you needed to be reminded, you know, he would give that to you. But it was all out of love and compassion, you know.
Yeah, I heard about the Jiao. I read all about that.
Yeah, he used to say, Jiao, go away is my mantra. He used to say.
Go away.
One time this old devotee of his came to the temple with a friend of his. And the friend had another guru who had a big ashram, and, you know. So Maharajji looks at this guy and said, why did you come here? At your guru's place, there's kirtan, bhajan, seva, everything there. Here, it's just ow, cow, jiao. Come, eat, go. But in those 3 words, the whole universe turns on those 3 words, you know. And he was so beyond understanding, and he had become that presence, that vast presence. He had merged himself, disappeared himself into that vast presence in which we all live. And he was, everything he did was from that space. And he would allow people to enter into that love, you know. And then our minds would bring us back out of it. And then he would, you know, throw you a banana and laugh at you, and then you'd be back in it again. And then your mind would take you out of it again. And then, you know, hit you with a banana in the heart when you weren't looking, and you turn around and go, you know, and you're back in it again. Because and you begin to understand from the inside how our stuff just pulls us out of ourselves, you know, into all these crazy places in our heads, you know.
Right.
So all the practices are to allow us to remain in that place of beauty and love that lives within all of us.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I want to help folks that have not started a chanting practice that might be interested in starting one. So maybe we can give them like a quick couple of tips on like how to choose one if necessary. Like, do you recommend just kind of sticking with one? I always hear you say sometimes you feel like a nut, so maybe you sing whatever you feel like singing, chant whatever you feel like chanting, and just going with that.
You know, I think you really need to find your own way into it. Other than the basics of, you know, you sit comfortably. It doesn't have to be on the ground. It doesn't even have to be sitting. But in order to spend some directed time getting familiar with the practice, it would be good if you dedicated a short period to it, where you weren't doing anything else, where you turned your phone off if possible, and just sat or stood or lay down or whatever, and just you know, certainly you can sing along with my CDs or somebody else's CDs who are chanting. And what we chant in India, they call the names of God. But don't worry about that. I don't. Because these are the names of your own true self. They're the names, they're doorways into who you truly are. We truly are. And so, and by paying attention to the sound of these mantras, of these names, we're automatically not being lost in thought for that instant. And then you get lost and you remember and you come back again and again and again and again. And don't try too hard. Oh my goodness, please don't try too hard. There's nothing worse than trying too hard. Just take it easy, relax, spend a few minutes at it. And if it gets more comfortable, spend a few more minutes at it. Don't try to sit down for an hour, you know, at the beginning, at least for the first 30 or 40 years. Don't try to sit down for an hour. Wait until you get a little bit more familiar, because then you get into being too ambitious and aggressive and trying to accomplish something that you think and get something you think you don't have. It's not like that.
Yes.
You just want to be with yourself. You want to be here in an easy, relaxed, open way. You want to be, and you want the mind and the thoughts to kind of be like a leaf that's falling from the tree, just floats down, flip, 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 like that. It's natural. It's just, if we disengage from our thoughts, then our thoughts just gradually slow down. But even in order to remember to disengage, that's why we use a mantra or one of these names. Any one of them, they're all the same. They're all the names of the same place, ultimately, which is who we are, our true nature, our soul, so to speak. So just use it. You can think of it also just as a concentration practice of trying to bring the mind back from being lost so much of the time, and you want to, ultimately it gives you yourself back. It fills you with a much more natural sense of who you are, underneath all the programming that we've all had from the inside and the outside. I mean, there's so much stuff going on that we're unaware of. The way our parents treated us, how they saw us, not just how they saw themselves, but how they saw us. It's almost more important how they saw themselves. We absorbed that shape from our parents because we saw how they went through their day, and we saw how life worked through their eyes, and so we absorbed all that. We didn't even know that, and that's still going on. And then there's all the things that happen to us, so much stuff. So just easy, just take the mantra, whatever it is, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything other than who you are. Yes, Ram is one of the incarnations of God in India. Yes, Shri Ram, Jai Ram means glory to God, victory to God, which means yourself, glory to yourself, to your true nature, who you are. Let that be victorious over all the illusion and all the suffering. But that's secondary. Just hear the sound, keep coming back again and again and again. That's all. And play around, see what works for you. The whole spiritual path is learning how to trust yourself.
Right.
That's all. What yourself is something that gets deeper and deeper. And how you begin to rely on your own experience gets deeper and deeper. So, and that all comes, that's the ripening process of practice.
Yeah.
It's really, life is a ripening process. We don't necessarily have to learn stuff, but the fruit gets sweeter as it gets ripe.
Yeah.
And the love gets stronger as we recognize our own beauty and our own love. It's a ripening process.
Yeah. It has
So
been that way. I was going to say it's been that way for me this year with your music, because it felt like a chore saying the names, and I knew that I needed to, because I know it's not that Nikki needs to feel good. Like you said, it doesn't matter how the person feels when the chanting is happening, because
that's
what's being
book.
Dissolved, right?
That's a good title for a book. Nikki needs to feel
right.
good. I won't steal it from
Nikki
you.
needs to feel good. That is a good title.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, this year, listening to the music, like for instance, Vrindavan Hare Ram, I did not know was the Maha Mantra. I was just singing it like since July, singing it like terribly, but loudly. And then at some point I recognized, like after reading some other book, I'm like, oh, I've been singing this. Like I already know the words, and now I can chant that like Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I can do that. And it happens naturally, and it feels good to do it. But if you had told me to do that in January, I'd be like, I don't have time to say these names. It's too many names. I just want to stick with one so I can get it done really quickly. Now it's like an enjoyment to go through all of that because of the music. And now my favorite, what's my favorite? I put them all here. the Sundara Chalisa. Like, I know the
Yeah.
Hanuman Chalisa now because of you. I
Oh,
know the
all right.
like 90% of it. I know because I've
Wow.
listened to it a million times, but it's because the way you drop beats at the end, it's like a party. So you get through
Mhm.
the Chalisa, it's always a party at the end. It's beautiful
Wow,
and
yeah.
it's powerful. And I've shared with everybody that I've talked to Monday nights in my meditation. I'm like, you guys got to check out the book. You got to check out the music, have an
Mhm.
open mind, and see if it's
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah. It's all a question of what people relate to, what they feel at ease with. On one hand, these are just techniques which we can use or not use.
Right.
There shouldn't be any manipulation or feeling that we have to do this because it's good for me. That's the last thing you want to think. I mean, if you tell me to stand up, I'm going to sit down. That's just the way it is. But if I know it feels good to stand up, well, then I'll stand up. So we have to find what works for us.
Right.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, or whatever, where it's our own unhappiness that, for most of us, that forces us to find a way to live in the world in a good way.
Absolutely.
Because what's happening is not working for us. But the thing is, if we even know that there's a way to do this in a good way, is already itself a fruit of our own previous efforts in this direction. Because most people, they don't have that understanding that there's any other way to live.
Right.
They don't understand that happiness is something that comes from within, that love is here all the time. You don't get it from anyone. You can't give real love to anyone.
You can't
but you
withhold
can
it from
share.
anyone.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah. And so if a person even begins to understand that there's something that can be done, that's a great thing, already.
I came into this world grumpy. There's like video footage of me at like 7, 8, 9, 10, just frowny. I was super shy, super awkward, and I was raised Catholic and had millions of questions, and no one had any answers. The priests were like, I don't know what she's talking about. And so I started seeking, like at 8, 9, I'm in bookstores in the New Age aisle, and I started reading Buddhism, like Buddhist texts in college, but then just kind of got lost again until my late 20s after a stint with law of attraction. So then that took me to like non-duality, like Hinduism, Advaita, and then all the way back around to like the Christian mystics. And I'm not anything like Christian or Hindu. It's just love.
Yeah,
just
me
love.
neither. I don't, I just want to be a human being. I'm working on it. If I ever get that right, I'll worry about the next thing.
Right.
So, later on, send me your address. I'm going to send you a book.
Oh, yay. I absolutely.
It's really a great book.
I heard you're
Short little book.
making audio book of Chants of a Lifetime. Is that true?
I did already. It's probably going to come out in January. Yeah.
I'm very excited about that. I hope you all are too. You should definitely get it. I'll be getting it, even though I have the Kindle version and a hard cover. It's that good. It's awesome. And I love your teaching style. I don't even think you call it teaching. It's very practical. It's like practical spirituality. Like, this is what you can do to be a good human. And in the meantime, recognize what you are beyond this,
Yeah. Thanks.
So thank you. Thank you. And for introducing us to Maharajji.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, he gets his own work done. He could make a stone do what I do, but but for some reason he's letting me do it. So
I saw a quote today where Ram Dass said somebody was thanking him for introducing him to Maharajji, and he said, "I'm the worm, and Maharajji's a fisher." The fisherman. I've got a million pictures of Maharajji around the room.
Great.
Since April of this year, it's become a large part of my life. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, he just sneaks in.
Yeah.
Yes. Into your life. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I want to let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. If there's anything that you want to share, please do so now. And we'll also put it up
Um,
on the website too.
Everything I do is up on my website, which is krishnadas.com. And there's a lot of free stuff on the website too. A lot of podcasts, a lot of this and that, all kinds of stuff. So you're welcome to jump in and see what's up there. Yeah, I hope we can go on and keep sharing these good moments together as time goes on, and all of us. You know, when I started singing with people, it was very much, I had that epiphany, but it was very much that it had to be with people, not sitting alone in my room.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm so grateful that people enjoy singing with me, because if nobody came, what would I do? You know,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd probably sing, but you know, it wouldn't be the same.
Mm.
So I knew I had to sing with people in order to activate this place inside myself. And
Yeah.
so it's just been incredible the way it's worked out and working out so far.
When you do your japa during the day, whenever you hear it come up, is it to a melody or is it just the words?
It's both.
Okay.
You know, some, like, if I just watched some of Nirvana doing their acoustic thing,
Mhm.
that thing they did at what do they call it? Come on, I know what it is.
I don't know.
It was this series that they did a lot of electric bands. They did acoustic sets,
Mhm.
so it was fantastic. So now all my chanting comes out in those melodies, like Nirvana, you know, all day long.
Nice. Like unplugged or something? Something like
Yeah,
that?
unplugged, exactly.
Unplugged.
Yeah, that
Yeah, it
was
just
it.
came to
Yeah,
me.
there
Look
you
at
go.
that.
Yeah, it was fantastic, you know. So, and one time I was with Sting, and I had heard one of his melodies was going on in my head, and I kept singing some mantra to it. So I said, you know, I have this great new melody. You know, did you ever hear this? It goes like this. He just like, no, I never heard it.
Man, that Mountain Hariram is so good.
The
It's
Mountain
really
Hurry.
good.
Yeah, that's a sweet one. Yeah. Yeah,
Amazing.
no, it's just I don't sit around trying to come up with melodies. I kind of hear them in my head, and I go, oh, that's nice.
Is
That's
that what
good. I
happened
think
on
I'll
Sundara Chalisa? Am I saying that right? Sundara Chalisa?
Sundara. Yeah, Sundara means
Sundara
beautiful.
Chalisa. Oh my
Sundara.
goodness.
Sundara.
That's
Sundara.
amazing.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where that came from. To tell you the truth. I don't know where anything. They all come from him. How they get here, I have no clue.
Was that like that combination of names? I know like Rama and Lakshman, like I know that they're together in the books, but had you heard that chant before?
Yeah. No. Well, yeah. No. There's a story about that.
Ah.
You haven't heard it. That's good. You're probably the only person in the world who hasn't heard it. It was back in the day with Maharajji. We used to live at one point. We lived in a town nearby, and we'd take the bus to the temple every day. And one day we got there, and there were these two older sadhus. They were walking down the road, and they came into the temple. And when Maharajji came out, they asked him if they could stay for a while. So he said, yeah, you can stay, but every day you have to sit out in front of the Hanuman temple and sing Sitaram, Sitaram, just Sitaram. So they said, great, you know, good rent to pay. So the next day we arrived, and they were out there singing. And so we were sitting waiting for Maharajji to come out and listening to them chant. And they were like this. There were two guys sitting opposite each other. They didn't have any instruments or anything, right? So one guy went, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. And the other guy went, Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram, 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 like this. Just back and forth, back and forth. And we weren't really paying attention, but it was filling the air. So then after a while, maybe they got bored or something, right? And the guy goes, Sitaram, 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 Jai Lakshman. So the other guy goes, oh, jazz, you know? And he goes, Sitaram, 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 Jai Lakshman. And then all the with no time at all, they're going, Ram Lakshman Janaki Jai Bolo Hanuman, like this.
Wow.
So Maharajji, from inside his room, all of a sudden we heard, Sitaram! Sitaram, Sitaram. So that was the first time I heard that, Ram Lakshman Janaki.
Wow. That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah.
I hadn't heard
It
that
was-
one until like 4 weeks ago. And it changed. I was
Ah.
like, this is a Christmas gift. And I played it. Because before that one, I was listening to the Door of Faith Chalisa. Because I liked how the
Oh, yeah.
calling
yeah,
out
Burnish
to
Chalisa.
yeah,
Mm.
that's the one that I was listening to. That's the one I really learned the Chalisa
Yeah.
from. And so
Yeah,
getting this new one, it felt new to me. I'm like, this is awesome. I don't know.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
that prayer came from my friend Bernie Glassman. Do you know the
Bernie
story for that?
Glassman. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, he was a Zen Roshi. He died a year and a half, 2 years ago. And he was a very dear, dear friend. He was my elder, but it was just, it was so much love between us. It was just so amazing. So one day I got an email from him saying, with these 8 lines of a prayer. And at the bottom, can you do something with this? So I wrote back, I said, like what? And he wrote back and he said, well, we Buddhists aren't that good with melody. Maybe you could come up with a nice melody for this, because this is a prayer we do in our Zen Peacemaker community. So if you come up with a melody, then we could all sing it together. So I said, well, how long do I got? He said, well, our next meeting's in 11 months. So cool, yeah, a little bit of time.
Right.
So I carried those words around with me around the world, and I kept looking at them. They would look at me, I'd look at them. Mm-hmm. So I wrote to Bernie. I said, Bernie, can I mess with the words a little? I get a 1-word email back, mess. So I kind of rearranged a couple of the words, and then this melody came. And so I realized that there was a couple of things that happened. First of all, the prayer is about making an offering of our hearts to all beings and to recognize the interconnectedness of all of us. And that had been a very deep experience that Bernie had. And that's why that prayer was so important to him and powerful for him. But on the other hand, I recognized to myself that we want to do that. We want to be able to do that, but we have our stuff, right?
Right.
And what is the best way to clean the mirror of our heart and try to overcome the things that prevent us from opening up? For me, that's the Hanuman Chalisa. Mm. So the two came together, and the melody worked for both of them. And so I called that Bernie's Chalisa. And he didn't know that until one day he looked on the CD and he said, oh, I didn't know you called it that. Yeah, well, that's awesome. What it is.
That's so cool. Beautiful story.
So,
beautiful.
Yeah,
music.
so it's a beautiful, beautiful prayer. And, like this Holiness the Dalai Lama says, everyone innately is good at heart. Mm. Everyone. Even the people who do the worst things in the world, underneath their stuff, they're not different than us. That's really hard.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bad stuff happening. And there always was, and there always will be, I guess. But how do you transform that? Well, if we're going to react out of anger and fight against those things, we're only going to create more resistance in a way.
Right.
So it's very simple. It's very deep stuff. In order to change the world, we must change ourselves. We must. But it's not an isolated thing. It's not, okay, I'm going to change myself in my room and I'm never coming out. It can't be like that, because you won't change. You have to change in the way you relate and treat every single person that comes to you.
Yeah.
Ram Dass always talked about the difference between roles and souls, and it's like that in a way. So, and Maharajji would go, one finger, right? We go like, what are we getting busted for? Something we did that he knew everything, something we were going to do, or something we're thinking about doing,
Mm-hmm.
He'd go like this. We said, Baba, what does it mean when you do that? He'd go like this. you know. And what does that mean? He said, many names, many forms, all one. All one. Sub-ek, all one.
Sub-ek.
So that's the bottom line. But this is not something we need to talk ourselves into. That doesn't work. It's something we have to directly experience.
Yeah.
And which we can. And when we do, everything is transformed for us. One should try to do the best one can do, but in terms of understanding and realization, you shouldn't try to mentally up-level yourself, up-level the game. I mean, to some degree that you can talk yourself down, like, okay, but that's not going to eliminate that knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
That got you there in the first place, right? In order to soften that and ultimately transform those knee-jerk reactions, that comes from practice. That's the fruit of the deepening, ever-deepening practice and the desire to treat other people the way we want to be treated. So,
golden rule.
Golden rule, that's what they call it. Who was that guy who said that? Oh, yeah. Maharajji used to talk to us about Jesus all the time. We were like, what is going on here?
Were you there that day where he talked about
Yes.
meditating?
Yes, I was there that day.
That's amazing.
Earlier that day, this Canadian guy had come to the temple for the first time and didn't really know much about Maharajji. He didn't teach. He didn't write books. He didn't give lectures, So Maharajji said, why'd you come? What do you want? So he thought he should give a spiritual answer, So he said, well, could you teach me how to meditate? Pep, come on, get out of here. Go in the back with the other crazy people. Go on, go. And as the guy's walking away, he says, just meditate like Christ. Go on. So he came in the back. Ram Dass was there, and we were debriefing him because we debriefed everybody. What did he say? And then what did he say? And then what did he say? He said, meditate like Christ? Jesus, what is that about, So then later, Maharajji came back to hang out with us, and Ram Dass said to him, Baba, you said we should meditate like Christ. How did he meditate? So it seemed like he was about to say something, but instead he just stopped. I mean, he stopped, and his eyes closed, and it felt like the world stopped turning. It felt like the birds stopped flying in the sky, just boom. It was such an extraordinary moment. And then 2 tears come down his cheek, And he kind of shook himself, and he said he lost himself in love. He lost himself in love. That's how he meditated. He never died. No one understands. He loved everyone, even the people who nailed him to the cross.
Wow.
He never died. He became one. He's one with all beings. No one understands. He never died. He lost himself in love. So. Yeah. May it be so for all of us.
Amen. Thank you again. I hope to have you back soon. We can chat some more.
My pleasure. Anytime. Just let me know.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you all so much for listening. And again, I'll be back soon with another episode of New Growth.